Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you and all that you're doing at the Canadian Health Food Association. We are here at the Enercare Centre, Toronto, local, first year in this venue. How are you finding it so far?
Oh, it's been an excellent show. Small correction, second year actually that we've been here, but it still feels like the first time. No, it's been great. A great venue, a great setup, and a really great vibe this year.
The Save Our Supplements campaign has been instrumental in raising awareness about the regulatory changes impacting natural health products in Canada. Can you share with us the genesis of this campaign, the response that it's received so far, and of course, how it's influencing the dialogue with Health Canada and other stakeholders?
Yeah, I think for a little bit of context, the industry really went through a big evolution in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And that Standing Committee on Health really came up with 53 recommendations for the industry. Recommendation number one was most critical, which is drugs and NHPs are separate and are different. But since that point, we've really been working through with Health Canada, how does that impart regulations and standards on the industry? What we've seen in the near term, what is acutely affecting us, is really three major changes. The first is a labeling regulatory change that happened last summer, and that's where Health Canada has now mandated larger font sizes, different font contrasts, which has really made it hard for manufacturers in terms of updating those labels and still making them legible, readable, and effective for consumers. The second one was the inclusion of natural health products in Bill C-47, which is around Vanessa's Law. And that's really expanded the powers of Health Canada for fines and for recall. And the third, and probably the most concerning and pressing issue, is around mid-May when they announced their intention to roll out cost recovery on the industry. Now, cost recovery is actually included in the 53 recommendations, so industry is open to that concept. But the methodology, the timing, and the way that this is rolled out with a complete lack of meaningful consultation with industry is really what has driven the concern for us.
Well, let's go through these one at a time real quick. As it pertains to labeling. Not only is it already complicated, and that's maybe a good thing for consumer protection, but if the government got their way at the end of the day, we're talking about maybe making supplement bottles about this big to hold 30 to 60 capsules for a month's supply in order to get everything on that label. It seems a little outlandish.
Yeah, I mean, the best way I can frame out labeling regulatory updates is a solution in search of a problem. These changes will require larger labels, they'll require different formatting for the same information. So at the end of the day, Bryce, we're not actually improving the ability for consumers to live and use these products safely. We're imparting environmental concerns by making bottles larger. Many of these products, we estimate about 2 out of 3 will actually have to increase the labels so much that they'll have to use peel-off labels. And unfortunately, peel-off labels are no longer recyclable. So we've got all these mandates towards environmental and sustainability issues. We're moving in completely the opposite direction and making bottles larger and less environmental.
All right, great. So bureaucracy, red tape, check. Second, Vanessa's Law.
Yes.
At the end of the day, maybe even just explain that real quick again, and then, as it relates to health and safety in the natural health products sector, how many times is anyone really experiencing any due harm or dying, for that matter, from a health product?
Yeah, so I'll answer that last part first. I mean, 0 reported deaths from natural health products. So that is, it is a much lower risk category than pharmaceutical drugs. And Vanessa's Law has its reason and its place. I think the concern that we've got is imparting the powers of Vanessa's Law onto NHPs was done in a budgetary item for a non-budgetary update. And to us, that's concerning. I think it's an indication on how Health Canada is thinking about natural health products. And we went to the Senate and testified to that extent. There was no consultation, there was no engagement with stakeholders. That was done in 2014 when it was decided it shouldn't be applied to natural health products. So it has increased fines, it has increased reporting mandates, but at the end of the day, Vanessa's Law has never been implemented and is really unnecessary on this industry.
And then number 3, really, in summary, a lot of this has already been done and done really well. And so what is the redundancy? What is the plan insofar as, as you would imagine, Health Canada is thinking this is going to solve?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the biggest concern we've got is we really haven't been able to define what the outcome is. And we've really tried to push them to be outcome focused in terms of why they're imparting these changes. If you're going to make it harder for small and medium-sized businesses in Canada to exist, you're going to make it harder for Canadians to access those products, you would think it had a good basis in evidence on what the outcomes would be. And we really have yet to see that evidence.
So consumer impact, how will the new regulations and labeling requirements directly affect consumers, particularly in terms of product availability, pricing, and diversity of choice in natural health products?
Yeah, so we're lucky that we had commissioned a report with Deloitte at the beginning of this year on the economic state of the NHP industry and what the impact of the labeling updates, which were the regulations that passed in 2022, would be on industry. So excluding the recent cost recovery initiative. And in that report, what we found is we've got a $5.5 billion industry that is thriving, both domestically and internationally. An industry that contributes $2.8 billion to the Canadian economy through tax revenue. So a great story for Canadians, while employing 54,000 Canadians from coast to coast. So this is a good news story and a good economic story for Canadians. With the labeling updates that Health Canada has proposed and the regulations that have passed, 1 in 5 companies in Canada have said they will move to the US because of the over-regulatory burden that they would feel. 76% of those would have to remove products from shelf because they simply couldn't afford to carry the breadth of products. And a vast majority of them would actually have to reduce headcount, so reduce employment within Canada. So we will have less Canadian companies making compliant products. We'll have less products available on shelf. And to your point, the products that remain are going to go up significantly in price. And this is all happening while nothing is being done to control the unregulated and unmonitored products that Canadians can access through international online marketplaces. So with the mandate of Health Canada to keep Canadians safe, they're really falling short of that mandate.
So industry adaptation and support, given the potential strain on small to medium-sized businesses, what specific support and resources is CHFA offering to help these companies navigate and adapt to the regulatory changes?
Yeah, so it's been a busy year on that front as we've been learning what is being proposed and having to digest and respond to those consultations. One of the big things that we as an association are really built for is to support our members in how they navigate this. So providing clear and clean communication on what the issues are, being able to distill that down into what actions they can take to help impact that, and then supporting them, whether it's through media training or how to meet with your MP or how to navigate sort of the bureaucratic government systems and how to have their voices heard. That's all a significant role that the association plays.
And balancing and safety, accessibility. Can you elaborate on CHFA's stance on finding a balance between ensuring consumer safety and maintaining accessibility to a wide range of NHPs?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of the clear mandates that we have as an association is to have safe and effective products in market. And that is why we're so proud of our current regulatory system. We have the gold standard internationally as it relates to natural health products and dietary supplements,
Bar none.
and a clear pre-market approval that puts Canadians in a position where they should feel very confident and very safe in the products that they purchase. And so the concern for us is the dismantling of that world-class leading system because we aren't implementing and enforcing the system that we already have. So we believe in the safety and efficacy of those products. We believe that the regime we've got today effectively does that. And we believe that any of the steps that have been proposed by Health Canada are only going to negatively impact the ability of Canadians to access these products.
I got to echo those sentiments as a clinician. I just got to say, I couldn't have been more proud as soon as we saw the implementation of the divine equivalent of what a large part of the rest of the world, certainly in this hemisphere, refers to as drug identification numbers in the sort of acquisition implementation of the natural product numbers, or NPNs. And I do still question, I'm still befuddled as to why this initiative, why go further than we have, because it just seems like a big redundancy plan. So advocacy efforts, let's talk about that. What ongoing advocacy efforts is CHFA involved in, and how can concerned individuals and businesses actively participate and make their voices heard?
Yeah, so the way that we've addressed that is we've launched our saveoursupplements.ca, which is a fantastic website if you want more information on what the issues are and how that will affect you. On that same site, though, there's a bunch of assets and tools that can be downloaded or accessed. And really the main driver that consumers or businesses can use to affect this issue is to get in touch with their politicians, get in touch with their local MPs, and make sure that their concern and their voices is heard. At the end of the day, we have tried to work with Health Canada. We have tried to explain our concerns and where stakeholders and industry thinks things need to go. But at this point, it has become political. And by meeting with your MP, conveying what your concerns are in your riding with your constituency, that is going to be the way that we impact change at this point.
So on the saveoursupplements.ca website and all these tools that both individuals and also stakeholders and businesses can get involved in, any tips that you've seen are perhaps more effective in engaging with, let's say, your MP, reaching out to them personally, maybe changing the template of the letter to make it more, individualized?
At the end of the day, if you're a constituent in a riding for your MP, that MP works for you. And they need to listen to you on what your concerns are, because at the end of the day, they are in their role because you are voting them into their role. So when meeting with MPs, I can appreciate it can initially feel intimidating. But these are people just like you and I who have a job and are trying to fulfill that job to the best of their ability. So when you meet with them, conveying your personal story, how it relates to you, how it will impact you, taking the templates and the tools we've provided, and making them really reflect your personal position is always a recommendation.
I don't know if you would agree. I would feel personally that we've lost a sense of the power in anecdote or testimonial, because we're advertised to all the time. But I believe that perhaps issuing that anecdote, or sharing that anecdote rather, with your MP and how a natural health product or service may have changed your life or the life of a loved one could actually go a long way. One way in terms of how folks might think about individualizing. So,
and Bryce, what I'd add to that is over 70% of Canadians use an NHP on a regular basis. So this is something that the majority of Canadians use in their life to help maintain their health. So when you're meeting with MPs, sharing your personal anecdote, most likely they will respond with their own personal anecdote as it relates to natural health products for themselves, for a family member, for a parent. And really connecting on that basis goes a long way.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I would also add to that, most people may misconstrue, if they're not deep into the industry, either a clinician, stakeholder, a frequent user, that an NHP is somehow just this encapsulated vitamin or supplement. It is well beyond that. These are products that we apply to our bodies, use in our everyday life, clean our houses with. And so maybe do a little more learning. It's all on the saveoursupplements.ca website about what NHPs are and perhaps what and exactly how this is all going to affect you. So let's talk innovation and new product development. I'm sure everyone wants to know how the impending regulations expected to influence innovation within the industry, and of course, what steps are being taken to ensure continued development and introduction of new products occurs.
This is probably one of the more concerning issues that I think we see. The new cost recovery regime will actually impart significant, extraordinary costs to simply applying for new innovative products. And the effect that that's going to have is research and development in the Canadian market will be stifled. No one is going to want to put the efforts and resources into developing these products when they know that the financial feasibility of it actually going to market is going to be strained by these new cost recovery fees. So that will just have a trickle-down effect of less innovative products in the Canadian market, less new products that will show up on shelf for Canadians to access, and ultimately that innovation will now sit on international online marketplaces, which unfortunately have not the same regulatory oversight and don't have the same confidence from Canadians that it will keep them safe.
And also, how might the regulatory changes affect healthcare practitioners, such as naturopathic doctors and homeopaths who incorporate natural health products into their treatments? Because that's a big concern for us.
Yeah, healthcare practitioners play such a critical role in the entire ecosystem of how Canadians access these products. And as you can see from the concerns we've got on the impact that these new regulations and proposals will have, practitioners will now have less products to choose from. They will have less Canadian companies that are compliant to be able to procure these products for their clients. And ultimately, it will force them to drive them to, again, unregulated and unmonitored products. So taking that important role of the clinician and connecting products to clients and Canadians will only become more difficult.
Amazing. So lastly, looking forward to how the CHFA envisions the evolution of natural health product industry in Canada in light of the new regulations, and share with us what strategies are being developed to overcome these challenges ahead.
Yeah, well, I think, look, we're here today at CHFA now in Toronto. We've got the largest turnout we've ever had as an industry. We've got more exhibitors than we've ever had as an industry. So in terms of our confidence of the growth and the impact that this industry has had, I think the future is very bright. I think obviously we've got concerns about what government is doing and the impact that it'll have on this industry. But the galvanized aspect of how we've been able to pull together and bring that voice back to Ottawa, I think we're quite optimistic will have an impact. But that doesn't happen without thorough engagement from industry, but all the way through to consumers, and making sure that Canadians are speaking up. And if we can do that, I think there's a lot to be proud of for today and a lot to look forward to for tomorrow.
Got to stand strong and stand strong together. Thank you so much, Aaron, for all that you do with the CHFA as CEO and the industry at large.
Appreciate it. Thank you.